I stopped paying my mother-in-law's rent because of her actions.
Actions have consequences.
Indeed they do. Something that also this episode has is a trigger warning for physical altercation. I'm Yaz, 36 female, and I married my current husband, Carl, 39 male, less than a year ago. I came to the US on vacation, we met, fell in love, and honestly got married 11 months after meeting. I've been married before, so when I tell you that this is true love, I mean he is my favorite human. By the way, this comes from Yasmin_love on the r/dustythunder subreddit. And if you want to submit your own stories just like this, go to the r/okstorytime subreddit. I'm Matt.
I'm Dakota.
We try to give you our best advice, but we haven't experienced most of these situations ourselves. So if you have, give us your take in the comments. Let us know what you've done and what you would do. His mother, on the other hand, let's just call her Karen, is more than a piece of work. For context, she raised Carl by herself after his father passed away when he was 3 years old. She had a daughter, but she passed away around 1996. I understand her attachment to him to some extent, and I've never gotten between them. That said, he never brought home a girl until he met me. He never lived outside of her house until he met me. Now, if you're thinking, wait, you said your marriage is less than a year old and you got married almost a year after meeting, you're right. He moved out of her house as an innocent man at 38 years old when we met. She threw a fit when we moved in together, and she said he was going to abandon her. Then, while we were setting up our first apartment, she came by and demanded he take her to some game night he had promised to attend. He went with her, but he told her he didn't like the way she did that, as she was rather rude towards me when she demanded he come with her. Long story short, they went, she got mad, fell on her then 75-year-old behind, and I had to drop everything to be by her side since my husband is on the spectrum and was overstimulated and couldn't handle the hospital chaos.
Dang, this is really unfortunate because it just seems like clearly like mother-in-law needs like some therapy.
I don't know if there was something there before, but it's stemming to her loss, and she's lashing onto the one family she has left. She feels like she's being robbed of her family by OP by Yaz, and I can understand why she's feeling hostile.
Yeah.
However, she's doing this the wrong way, and she needs to let her son live his own life. Fast forward to why I am now in a very livid state. My mother came to visit me for a few months. When we were taking her back to the airport, Karen decided she wanted to come along to get out of her apartment for a while, as it was about 4 hours round trip to and from the airport. During the drive, Carl made a driving mistake. He's a new driver, and unable to handle his emotions, he was being really hard on himself. My mom attempted to say something supportive, and he snapped at her. I was offended by that, but he immediately recognized it and apologized. I didn't want to talk about it then, so I just said no comment and kept quiet the rest of the journey. He misinterpreted my response and kept bugging me to talk to him. After we arrived at the airport, Karen said we should quit acting like children. Carl snapped and said he isn't a child. She followed up by saying she wasn't just talking about him and asked how many times he had to apologize. At this point, I was really upset at her meddling, so I asked him to address it. He spoke to her privately, and her response was that he wasn't her boss and she'd say whatever she wanted. Now, I was pissed and felt like he couldn't handle tough conversations with his mother. However, she had involved me in her rude comments before, so I decided I'd say something myself. When we were almost at her apartment dropping her off, I told her I'd like to say something. I explained that what she did back there was rude and inappropriate, and I asked her not to do that again. She doubled down. She said that if I weren't acting like such a kid, she wouldn't have to say anything. I told her that I didn't think she understood what I was saying. This was a marriage, and I was setting a boundary. She would not speak to me like that again and would not butt into anything my husband and I had between us. She asked what I was going to do about it and said she would say whatever she wanted to say.
You just gotta love that. It's just like,
so
I'll do whatever I want. And then it's like, wait, I have consequences though?
It's so funny that she's mad at them for being childish when she's being worse. She is the child in this scenario.
Straight up.
I told her I said what I said, and if she continued to cross the boundary, her actions would have consequences. This is a real FAFO moment.
Yes, that's right.
She cursed at me, called me names, and said Carl was her son. I cursed back and told her not to disrespect me in my own car. By this time, Carl had pulled up to her apartment, so I told her to get out of my car and that she was no longer welcome in my home or my space until she learned some respect. She refused to get out and told me to make her. I got out of the car and went around to open the door, telling her firmly to get out because by this time I was seeing red. The situation escalated when she became aggressive and started yelling and gesturing wildly at me. In the chaos, she ended up with some minor bruising on her hands. She has AFib and is on blood thinners, so she bruises easily. Carl was trying to calm the situation down and keep the neighbors from calling the police. Even after we got home and Carl called her to tell her he didn't appreciate what happened, she insisted I had attacked her. Since this happened yesterday, Carl has told her she's no longer welcome in our home and she's not permitted to talk to me or come near me, and she'll only get dutiful check-ins from him, but no hangout movie dates or company because he's disappointed in her and disgusted by her behavior.
She FO'd. She found
did.
out. And
Carl-
again, it's just
Carl
sad
stepped up.
because clearly she like is just kind of, you know, she's hopelessly like attached to her son because
Yes.
of, you know, things that have happened in her past, and she just needs to work through that to create a healthy, you know, connection there.
Mhm.
But she seems very stubborn.
Her response was that it was fine as long as her rent was paid, and she asked him not to cut her out of his life if he didn't want her to go to an empty grave, making him promise to visit her. Today, I found out that this woman has been telling everyone that I hurt her. I got so mad, I called her and left a voicemail asking her to stop and reminding her that the apartment she lives in, I was the one who took her to sign up for it. It's elderly housekeeping and government assisted, so she pays under $200 for rent versus the $600 she used to pay out of her small Social Security checks. I reminded her that I spent over 2 hours on the phone for her with customer service when she moved in, making sure to talk to a supervisor to fix her TV and phone connection for her comfort. I told her she was ungrateful and that while I didn't want to talk to her either, she should stop spreading lies. She called Carl and told him that if I ever called her again or left another message, she was going to have me arrested for pesterment. She knows I'm currently going through an adjustment of status after my marriage, so I can't have any negative reports on my record or it will mess up my process. By the way, nothing's going to mess up your process if you listen to full episodes just like this on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or any of your other favorite podcast platforms, and just search up OK Storytime. There's a little bit of an update, but let's talk about this. We got to talk about this.
Yeah, no, it's really, I think, unfortunate that it just seems to be escalating on both sides, and I think, yeah, she's you know, she's like 75. She's probably set in her ways.
Very much so.
And yeah, I think
there's probably, considering her age and her behavior, there might be some prejudice against OP because OP is not from whatever country they're in.
Yeah.
So
could be.
There could be some aspect of that. It's wild to me that she's so willing to ruin OP's chance at living in this country, like mess up her life and her son's life and their marriage, over something so small
Which
and petty.
I doubt she'd be able to do, because it's like a phone call to someone who's like spreading actual lies about you. It's like, I know it could complicate the process,
Yeah.
but like, it's crazy. It's just, I think probably moving forward, Carl's gonna have to be the one to handle this. But yeah, she honestly, she just needs help.
She
It's
needs a
unfortunate.
hobby. She needs friends. She needs a cat or a dog.
She's
Some
anything
goldfish.
besides just her son.
Some lawn shrimp.
Yeah, some critters, just some creepy crawlers, perhaps.
All right. Here's where my pettiness comes in, though. Carl isn't the one who pays her rent. He doesn't even know the login information. I decided that I'm not paying her rent anymore, nor am I giving Carl the login info. I told him to tell her that I will no longer be doing her any favors, so she should start putting aside her money to cover her rent because we are a unit and his money is my money too. My family is telling me not to do that because at the end of the day, she's still his mother. But I feel like it's the only thing I can do to let her see the seriousness of her actions. I am so hurt by the whole thing that I'm fuming. I told Carl today that I feel like I might have to leave him and let her have him in order to be okay again. The fact that she has put her hands on me and then manipulated the whole story makes me hate her. And I don't want to be with him and hate his mother, so this is hard for me. So, Reddit, I will take my judgment. Am I wrong for choosing to stop paying my mother-in-law's rent? And we have the comments.
Honestly, gut check, I feel like it is not necessarily like wrong on principle, but like in terms of like what's going to make your life easier or smoother, I feel like it is just going to create more friction and more heat.
There is that aspect of it. All right, so comment 1. Have a sit down with your partner and both of you figure out how you're going to proceed from here. Not having her at your home if she can't respect you or around you when she behaves badly is a fair thing, but you don't need to get petty. Sit down and do the budget together. Your funds and his funds, and how his and your debts are paid. What's left over from each of your salaries is your own money. If he wants to pay his mother's rent from his fund money, then that's a him thing. Give him all her information he needs and let him figure it out. His mother, his action plan going forward. Block her and let him figure it out. If he does not enough, well, that's not your problem. If he does not want to pay her rent, then it's not your problem either. And this story is no longer your problem because that's the end of it. There's no more updates.
I think that's kind of the right move, though, is you're going to have to sit down with your partner. It doesn't...
Right.
It's not really a unilateral thing you can do. It's... And it be, like, cool and smooth, I guess. Like...
Because, I mean, as much as Carl is on her side for now, if things get really bad with his mom, like... if she gets kicked out of the housing, if she doesn't have the funds for like groceries or to get medical care or something, if something happens because of this decision, as much as she may have deserved it, Carl is always going to, in some part of him, possibly blame you for it.
Right. Because it's still his mom.
Yeah. Like,
and then it's like, imagine she loses that housing and now now she has to live with y'all. Like,
oops, you just played yourself.
Yeah, that could end up happening. So, yeah. Just make sure y'all are on the same page before you make any explicit moves, you know?
Mm-hmm.
You say, hey, I don't want any of my money going to her. And I know we're a unit, but, like, you're going to have to figure out how to do that on your own because why should I pay the rent for a woman who is your mother, but she's actively telling people that, like, I attacked her? My mother-in-law repeatedly ignored our boundaries, and I'm the one she blames for it.
I like playing games, but the blame game is not one of them.
That's right. And there is a trigger warning here for heavy drinking and emotional abuse. I, 35 female, started dating my husband, 30 male, in 2019. We fell for each other hard and fast. We bonded over our similar unfortunate upbringings and how we were working hard to break our generational traumas. By the way, this comes from user mentalpickle2353, direct from the r/okstorytime subreddit. And if you want to submit your own stories, go on over to that subreddit and submit them there. I'm Dakota.
I'm Matt.
And we're here to give good advice goofily, but we don't always have all the answers. We only know what we would do in any given situation. So if you would do something different, let us know in the comments. OP says, we talked about our difficult parents, and some of the things he revealed to me were extremely concerning. He said that they were in a better spot now and that his mother had apologized for their past. I have a very protective nature and instantly felt a sort of way about her, but tried to push that aside the best I could to not feel any resentment towards her for what she had put my husband through. I first met my future mother-in-law, 52, when she and my husband's sister, 23, Nina, came to visit him over a year later after he moved in with me. Nina was lovely and future mother-in-law was nice enough, although future mother-in-law definitely had the look and behavior of someone who had used hard substances or lived a hard life. Again, I pushed what I knew about her out of my mind and tried my best to be open to her being changed, and the visit went off without a hitch. In 2022, we were getting married and decided to have a destination wedding. Husband had talked to future mother-in-law at the end of the previous year and said that she had already purchased the plane tickets for her and her family to get to the wedding. As the wedding was approaching, husband decided to check in again to make sure everything was all set. After his conversation with future mother-in-law, he seemed agitated, so I asked him what was wrong. He then revealed that future mother-in-law admitted to him that she actually hadn't purchased the tickets and his mother and siblings wouldn't be coming. What are we doing? Why are we doing that? Come on.
This is toxicity and lies. This is not the way to set up a healthy relationship.
So OP continues, I could tell that he was extremely saddened by this and tried to be supportive, but this honestly infuriated me. Unfortunately, at that point, so close to the wedding, there was nothing that we could do since we didn't have enough time to try and make more money to help them with the tickets. I had worked out a way to try to make them still feel involved by having my mother live stream the wedding so that they could watch and feel like they were a part of it. The wedding was beautiful, although riddled with its own issues. After rewatching the video my mom had recorded, I realized she had unfortunately filmed an extremely large pile of garbage near where we parked because she chose to start recording far too early. I was so embarrassed by this that I tried to edit the video, but unfortunately there was no way to change it at this point, and the only thing I could do was set it to private. On our second day of our honeymoon, husband gets a call from his mother-in-law stating that the wedding was beautiful, but she was upset because she was trying to show other people the video and couldn't find it. When we told her why, she complained that it wasn't that big of a deal, and I should just make the video public again so that she could share it with her friends. Which honestly, I kind of agree. It's like, as long as it wasn't the pile of trash the whole wedding, then what are we, it's not that big of a deal. I was honestly quite irritated with that, since if she had actually been there, then she could have filmed her own video, so I wouldn't have needed to live stream it in the first place. I told her that I wasn't comfortable with releasing the video and that I had shared many photos that she could show instead. After we returned, mother-in-law called my husband and insisted she would throw us a reception since she was unable to attend the wedding. We reluctantly agreed, although we had a firm boundary that we would not budge on. No booze, because father-in-law was struggling with his drinking. She agreed and planned the trip for her, her boyfriend, and his son, husband's kid brother, Anson, 18, their adopted brother, Will, 18, their best friend, also 18, one of their girlfriends, 17 or 18, and her kid sister, 14 or 16. Husband's older brother, Aaron, his girlfriend, Bianca, both 33, and their 2 children, 2 male and 4 male, were there, as well as Nina and her boyfriend, Ryan. What a cast! During our first visit with them at the house they rented, I noticed that she had in fact brought lots of boxed wine and booze, even though we had specifically asked her not to. I was honestly mortified that she was so blatantly ignoring our boundaries at a party that she insisted was for us. On day 2 of the reception, husband's father came with his girlfriend, who honestly seemed like a very sweet woman. Mother-in-law felt differently about her. She proceeded to talk badly about this poor woman to me while I was trying to keep myself busy. Mother-in-law criticized everything from father-in-law's girlfriend's personality to the way she looked. After father-in-law's parents showed up, mother-in-law commented on how much they loved her and how she would mess with father-in-law's girlfriend. She walked up to them and tried to be as personable to them as possible, taking all the air out of the room and not really leaving any space for father-in-law's girlfriend to try to get a word in edgewise. I was truly flabbergasted. Mother-in-law had not only broken off her relationship with father-in-law many years ago, but had also moved on. She had even gotten married and had more kids. I was beyond annoyed that this reception mother-in-law was insisting to have for us was getting turned into just another excuse to party wildly, and it certainly didn't feel like it was for us anymore. When husband said that it was time for us to go, I made us 2 plates, but didn't go overboard since they would give us all the rest of the food anyway. The next morning, I woke up and drove back over to the house they were staying at to collect the rest of the food. By the time we had gotten there, only Nina and Ryan were still at the house, and they informed us that the rest of the crew had already taken off. When we asked to go get the rest of the food from the house, they let us know that mother-in-law had already thrown it all away.
Are you serious? There is so much malice here and just active pettiness in this woman.
Yeah.
And I don't know what end it goes, because it's not only hurting daughter-in-law, but it's also hurting her own son.
Yeah, it's just literally a person entirely driven by spite, no matter who it impacts around her. I was absolutely stunned. The only gift that she had offered was the food that they had brought, and they just threw it all away. At this point, I was infuriated. She knew we are extremely environmentally conscious and how much we hated waste and how strapped for cash we were, but she did it anyway. At the end of 2022, husband's youngest brother passed away in a horrific accident. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Husband was extremely rattled from the news and struggled mentally with it for a while. At one point, things had gotten so bad that I decided to call mother-in-law, as I was nowhere near equipped to try to help him with this level of grief. She came the next day to pick him up. Husband spent about a week with her before he called me to let me know he was coming home. I let him get settled for a few days before asking if they talked through what was going on. To my complete surprise, he said that they never even talked about anything. In the beginning of 2023, I was involved in a very bad accident, which left me disabled and severely limited physically. That summer was their annual camping trip in our area, and with me being in an extreme amount of pain, I wasn't able to visit, but husband did, and was not pleased. I just want to pause and say, I'm so sorry, OP. That's rough. Husband was upset that his family, mother-in-law in particular, was drinking and smoking heavily and brought a bunch of single-use garbage, especially water bottles, and were being extremely disrespectful to the campsite that he had tediously cleaned for hours before they got there so that they could have a good experience. Last year, husband had a mental health crisis where I reached out to mother-in-law again for help. She arrived the next day with her boyfriend, and husband insisted on making us some food. So, while he cooked, I sat at the table with mother-in-law and her boyfriend. I don't remember how the conversation of politics came up, but she started expressing some concerning views and spewing misinformation. I very calmly disagreed with her and fact-checked her multiple times, to which she just huffed and moved on. She then went off talking about, the next sentence is crazy, because she drops welfare queens in the ghetto, and then husband had to gently remind her that she was actually on welfare herself.
Oh my God.
It's just, yes. And again, I think you hit the nail on the head. She's saying that just because she wants to feel better about herself. And then she'll probably justify, be like, I actually need it, versus these other people. It's like, you don't know these other people. You don't know what's going on. It's like, ah. Then mother-in-law said something along the lines of, I just think that people need to suck it up, when the topic of mental health came up. She was literally called out there because her son is suffering with his mental health, and she would say something so callous with him being right there honestly disgusted me. I tried to remain calm the best I could and explained, toxic masculinity hurts men too. It's an unrealistic ideal, and it is why more men take their own lives than women, because they are told to man up and hide their feelings. Even her boyfriend agreed with me, and I went on to say that you don't just get over trauma just like that. She actually snapped at me and said, you don't just get over your son's passing, and stared daggers at me. Whoa. Honestly, I was shocked and simply said, I know. This woman had no idea what I had gone through, and yet found it appropriate to talk down to me about understanding trauma as if it was a contest. I tried to remain cordial, but after dinner, they decided to leave anyway, even though they had already promised to play card games with us. It's just so weird.
But
to play like but my trauma's worse, when it's like, also, that was your son's brother who passed away.
yeah.
And it's like, and also, he's in a mental health crisis, or what has been, and you being like, yeah, that's all fake, made up, you should just like tough it out. Why are you even here? Like, you're not even here to support your son. You're just here to make him feel worse. The next morning, they were going to take us out, but I declined, saying I didn't feel up to it. I honestly just couldn't be around this woman anymore at this point. After husband returned home, he told me that this woman not only did not address the issue that she was there for once again, but in fact went on a tangent about how I was the one at fault for being nothing but a nag, and was obviously the source of all of his problems.
Mm-hmm.
That was the point where I was officially done with her. The whole thing caused an argument between husband and me about him not correcting her. He then called mother-in-law, and she just told him to get in the car and drive away, which is my car, not his, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
When I heard him preparing to leave, I hurried out there as quickly as I could in my condition, told him to give me my keys, and told him to walk if he wanted to go. He had no right to take my car in his mental state. After the argument, I sought comfort in talking to Bianca, as she had experienced much of the same animosity from mother-in-law. Refresher, Bianca is the older brother Aaron's girlfriend.
Okay.
I admit I was extremely harsh about mother-in-law and about husband for not standing up for me, but she completely understood and sided with me, as she had experienced the same from Aaron. So anyway, let's continue. This year, Nina and Ryan also decided not to attend their annual campout for reasons very similar to husbands. Instead, they stayed with us for several days and started telling us some horror stories of what it was like living with mother-in-law, such as her drinking habits. It came to light that mother-in-law said the N-word, both variations, over and over, asking which one was right, quote unquote. For context, I am mixed. My father is black and indigenous, and I absolutely do not feel comfortable saying that word, nor do I like when non-black people think that they can say it. Husband and I found out 2 months or so prior that we were actually expecting a little one, due in 2026. Congratulations. We had chosen not to tell anyone until we were past the danger zone, but we were highly considering who we would tell or be comfortable having in our child's life. We told Nina and Ryan under the condition that they not tell mother-in-law, to which they agreed and seemed supportive. Husband and I talked after they had left, and I told him that he was welcome to see mother-in-law all he wanted, but not to expect me to or to interact with her, and neither would our child after everything we had learned. He understood, but said he had to at least try to talk to her in hopes that she would change her behavior.
She's how old now? She's not going to change, and she's actively looking for ways to be careful, because there's no way you don't know that word is not acceptable.
Right.
And especially talking to your daughter-in-law who is mixed race, there's no way that you think that this is okay.
I told my husband the only way I would ever consider talking to her again was if she apologized. The annual campout was not long after sister-in-law's visit. I decided to make myself scarce and stay with my friend for the week so I wouldn't be around if they decided to pop in. Towards the end of their visit, husband pulled mother-in-law aside and had the conversation with her. She completely denied needing help or having a problem and refused to apologize or to acknowledge anything. She even dragged the rest of the camping party into the private conversation in order to get backup.
Oh my God.
Horrific. My husband ended up having to defend himself against 6 or 7 people who were all defending her and telling him he was wrong. They even left early without saying goodbye because she was so upset at being confronted. A few days later, I received a text from Nina saying that we needed to talk and ideally, husband would be present. I already had a bad feeling about how this was going, and I informed husband. I asked him to make it clear to her that I had not even been present during the conversation. He did, and set a time for the conversation with Nina, Ryan, husband, and myself. It went worse than I imagined. Husband explained the conversation he had with mother-in-law and how it went. He also apologized for letting the fact that they were the ones who told us about hearing the N-word slip when the group of them were ganging up on him. They were upset about that because mother-in-law had immediately turned on them once the group got home, which made tensions high in the house since they were still living with mother-in-law. That was completely understandable. She accepted his apology, but then moved on to asking why he was cutting mother-in-law off. He insisted he had never said that, and in fact, when mother-in-law asked him directly, he said, "I don't want to do that." She then said that they were uncomfortable hiding the fact that we were pregnant from mother-in-law and didn't know if they could keep it from her, even after already promising they would. Do you know how easy it is to just shut your mouth about that and not say it and go, "Whoa, I had no idea"? Come on. You're going to play that as a leverage card now?
It's called acting. It's also for the good of the child and the good of your family.
I reiterated my issues with mother-in-law and why I was not comfortable with telling her about our pregnancy because of the way she treated me calling me a nag and blaming me for husband's issues, as well as her discriminatory rants. Ryan then chimed in and said, "From what we understand, you were constantly criticizing him and laughing as if to try and make it sound like jokes." Whoa, hold on. I'm just looking around to say, where were you when any of this was happening, Ryan? Are you going to take the word of mother-in-law? What? I was very taken aback and replied that the only time I remember correcting husband was when he was giving the wrong information to his grandpa as he was picking up his car. I had laughed because this was something I had already had to correct him on. Husband chimed in and confirmed that this was the case, saying, sometimes I'm stupid and say the wrong things because I have a bad memory, and OP has to correct me because she doesn't. I told him not to talk like that, and so did Nina. Yeah, that's good. Be like, don't say you're stupid, husband. You don't have to do that. Hours later, he had a conversation with his brother, Aaron, that went much the same. I was present, but said nothing. It turned out that as soon as mother-in-law got home from the trip, she went on a campaign to get everyone to pressure husband into withdrawing his boundaries, convince him that his standards were too high, and manipulate the truth. She turned everyone against me, painting me as the antagonist causing all of this. Weeks later, mother-in-law messaged husband multiple times, still not addressing any of the issues he brought up. He decided to reiterate their conversation in text format, hoping it would be a way to get through to her. That evening, he received an extremely long text from Nina, once again inserting herself. She sent screenshots of the conversation between Bianca and me, which irritated me because I had literally told Bianca that I was being mindful of who I confided in after how people were showing themselves. Everything in those messages were things I had already discussed with husband before or after venting to Bianca. What upset me the most was that some of the context was cut out on my end, leaving only the messages that looked the most damning, and I understood exactly what she was trying to do. Luckily, I believe in keeping receipts.
Oop.
So, I told my husband that he could look at everything I messaged her myself. He agreed that the context mattered. Nina then questioned why husband's family is being cut out and not OP's, while in the next breath contradicting herself by saying we had actually said we might cut OP's family out. She admitted she had lied over the phone and said she found the way I talked to husband uncomfortable to witness. It always has been. She criticizes you so harshly. Ryan and I talked about it while we were there. We honestly tried to rack our brains about what she was talking about, since most of the time was spent listening to them, all of us venting about mother-in-law or playing board games. She then brought up that husband called himself stupid on the phone call and said, if you tell a flower negative things for long enough, it stunts its growth. I think that you're excusing her behavior because you've been conditioned to. To be clear, OP literally told her husband, hey, don't talk like that, after hearing him say that. So
he's not a dummy. He just sometimes needs a little bit of reminding because his memory's not as good as hers.
Yeah. And she was like, hey, fair enough, but don't talk about yourself so poorly. OP continues, that floored me. Didn't she hear me tell him not to talk about himself like that? Also, husband and I had extensive conversations about why he puts himself down so much. And he, not me, concluded that it was how he was conditioned growing up because of his mother.
Shocker of the century right there.
Who would have thought? She continued by guilt-tripping him to see where his mom was coming from because of how she was raised, saying, you don't know our mom. You think you do, but she's so much more than how you've described her. We were literally listening to her and Ryan talk about mother-in-law. She went on to say, your daughter will meet all walks in this life. It is your job to prepare her for those people. Instead, the example you're setting has less to do with protection and more to do with intolerance. Ignoring the ugly doesn't make it go away. That's one of the dumbest things I've ever read. You can fully prepare somebody for all walks of people who may be vile to them, but you don't have to do it by using their own grandmother as an example. You might just be able to bypass that trauma completely, and it'll be okay. You're crazy. You're crazy. Oh, man. Like, WTF? Sure, she might meet tweakers and in life, but we shouldn't be encouraging her to be friends with them. And it's about protecting her. That is literally our job. You best believe that if it's between my daughter living a healthy life or the wishes and desires of someone else, I am always going to pick my daughter. By the way, you can always pick through more episodes with stories just like this on Spotify, iHeartRadio, or Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts. All you got to do is search OK Storytime, and you've got an archive with over 75 days worth of stories to listen to.
That's better than paying attention to your angry, evil mother-in-law.
It's true. Leave this mother-in-law wherever you found her. You do not need to keep her in your life. I would say, honestly, find the ones who support you and then just withdraw from the rest. You're having a child with your husband. You need to focus on that above all else. And if he can't get on board with that, that's a serious problem. But you got to prioritize your own family here. Let's finish this story. That was almost 2 weeks ago, and we're still unsure of how to address this. Our couples counselor told me that Nina is living in her own reality, and I need to not take it personally. But I'm having an extremely hard time not taking it personally that someone is intentionally trying to throw me under the bus, making me look like a bad guy to release mother-in-law from any wrongdoing, and actively trying to drive a wedge into my relationship. This whole situation is causing us an extreme amount of stress at a pivotal time when being stress-free is paramount. I've been questioning whether or not I should even invite Nina to the baby shower, and if I should also go low contact or no contact with Nina for what she's doing. But I'm hesitant about how that would affect husband since he's already feeling ostracized. Has anyone gone through anything similar or have advice for how I should proceed? And that is the end of that story. But honestly, I think the number one thing is that if you and husband can get on the same team, you're a unit, and regardless of how ostracized, certain members of the family may make him feel, it's like at the end of the day, if they're unwilling to recognize your own family unit and the validity of your own thoughts and feelings about the given situation, then it's like just find the people who are able to be on your team and let the others ostracize you at will, because this is one of those moments in life where it's like, this is a big deal. Like if these people cannot accept that you're having a child and the way that mother-in-law was behaving, not only about saying the racial slurs, but just about being just a kind of hateful, negative person towards OP in general,
Right.
The mother of your child, husband, you need to put your mom on blast for that. And if she won't change her ways, then there need to be consequences.
It's amazing to me always how quick people are to defend or excuse bad behavior from old folks just because they are old.
Yeah.
I think it's stupid. I think it completely ignores the fact that at any age you can learn to change. You can learn that you were wrong. You can learn to be better. I understand that they are family, but it's like I've said here before, this is your new family now. You have to prioritize them. And there is that concept that I brought up here before, that the blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb.
Yes.
You have chosen these people as opposed to the ones you just happen to be born to, who are being terrible to the people you've chosen.
Yep.
So you need to reaffirm that choice and decide where you stand. You don't have to associate with someone just because they're related to you.
Absolutely.